Racist cops attacked a black man, then were stunned to discover he was a U.S. Navy Rear Admiral. Before we dive into the story, drop your city or country in the comments and see how far this story travels. And if you enjoy it, hit subscribe. What happened next was shocking, brutal, and unforgettable, and it could happen to anyone, no matter their rank or status. Rear Admiral Anthony Reed was driving home after a military summit, dressed casually in athletic wear. He noticed flashing lights behind him and signaled calmly, pulling over to the side of the quiet road. Hands visible on the steering wheel, he waited patiently. He had trained hundreds in de-escalation, yet he sensed tension in the air. To the officers, he wasn't a decorated naval officer. They saw only a black man standing outside his car. Two officers approached aggressively, weapons drawn, voices sharp. "Get out! Hands where I can see them," one barked. Reed explained calmly. "I'm reaching for my ID in my left pocket." But they ignored him. The flashing lights reflected off their badges, their shouts echoing down the quiet street. Reed's heart sank as he realized this would not be a routine stop. The peaceful conversation he had expected was gone. In its place was suspicion, fear, and escalating danger. Without warning, one officer lunged at Reed's legs while the other pinned his arms. He hit the pavement with a jarring thud, scraping his cheek on the asphalt. Knees pressed into his back, fists struck his side, and a baton landed across his ribs. He remained compliant, silent, and measured, yet the officer's brutality intensified. Bystanders gasped, phones rose to record, and whispers of shock rippled through the small crowd. Reed's pain and restraint only highlighted the unnecessary aggression against him. Through the haze of pain, Reed tried to speak. "I'm a Rear Admiral in the U.S. Navy." The words barely left his lips, swallowed by chaos and violence. The officers didn't hear. Nearby witnesses held their phones, realizing the man on the ground might be more than he seemed. Suspense hung in the air as the audience, already aware of his rank, waited to see if the officers would ever understand who they were confronting. Finally, a supervising officer arrived on the scene, her footsteps quick but deliberate. She froze the moment she saw Reed on the ground. Recognition flashed in her eyes. "Admiral Reed?" she gasped. The two officers stepped back, confused and unsure. Cameras clicked, phones recorded, and witnesses whispered in disbelief. The tension skyrocketed. What had seemed like a routine stop turned into a moment of public reckoning, as the reality of who they had assaulted began to sink in. Reed rose, battered yet composed, his uniform of civilian clothes untouched by the dirt of anger. His voice was calm but cold. "I've led missions overseas with more discipline than you've shown today." The officers shifted uneasily under his gaze. Discipline, dignity, and years of service contrasted sharply with their impulsive aggression. The audience held its breath. How would they respond now that the truth was laid bare, and their mistake could no longer be ignored? Body cam footage soon leaked, and the town erupted in debate. The officers were suspended pending investigation. Reed did not seek apologies. He demanded accountability. Public attention surged. People shared the story online, and hashtags spread like wildfire. What had started as a personal ordeal quickly became a national conversation about race, policing, and authority. The world watched, realizing that rank and uniform offered no guaranteed protection. Days later, Reed stood before a crowd of reporters, his bruises still visible but his posture unwavering. He didn't talk about his rank. He spoke about the reality of being judged by skin color. "I served a country that still sees my skin as a threat before it sees my service," he said. His words resonated deeply, echoing through social media feeds, inspiring communities, and forcing the public to confront uncomfortable truths about racial bias in everyday encounters. The story went viral. Communities rallied behind him, demanding justice and systemic reform. Lawmakers took notice, drafting new police oversight bills inspired by Reed's experience. Social media amplified the message, sparking nationwide discussion on racial profiling and abuse of authority. The incident became more than a local event. It highlighted a structural problem, showing that no one, regardless of rank, was immune from bias and mistreatment. Months later, Reed retired, not just as a Rear Admiral, but as a voice for those often unheard. His courage and character outshone the brutality he endured. He reflected on his career, the missions led, and the injustices he witnessed, not only to himself, but to countless others. Through advocacy and example, he left a lasting impact, inspiring citizens and military personnel alike to pursue fairness, justice, and dignity in every encounter. If a Rear Admiral can be brutalized on the side of a road, who is truly safe? Comment your city and country, share this story, and subscribe. Let this story remind us, fairness and justice are not privileges. They are rights everyone deserves.